Welcome, everyone. If you're a parent in today's digital world, you're facing a new kind of dilemma. On one hand, social media offers incredible opportunities for young athletes, visibility, community, and even sponsorships. On the other, it opens a door to risks we desperately want to shield our children from. So, how do we navigate this? How do we build a positive digital footprint for our children without exposing them to harm? To help us answer this, I'm thrilled to be joined by Marsela Rita. Marcela is a child online protection researcher who has made digital safety her mission. With a master's in computer science focused on human computer interaction security and a background in digital forensics, she doesn't just talk about online safety, she understands the technology, the psychology, and the real world threats at a fundamental level. Today, we're bridging two worlds. My role is in brand building and crafting legacies. Marcela's role is in creating safe digital spaces. In this conversation, we'll merge that insight to give you, the parent, a practical, thoughtful framework for supporting your child's dreams safely. Marcela, thank you for being our guide on this crucial topic.
Maria, thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. I'm so happy to be here to unpack this with you. Everything about child online protection and marketing. It's my favorite subject. Let's get into it.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. So, just to give people context as to the reason we're having this conversation, I have a nephew who is a star athlete, and I was speaking to his mom about, how do I get support in terms of social media, and she's looking into it, and there's opportunities coming around. However, those opportunities are requesting or requiring that children have social media pages. So, what do we think social media should be used for in a young athlete's life, and what should it not be used for, Marcela?
All right. So when it comes to moms and dads who now have to be like, what do you call it? Mom managers, right?
Yes.
And how we navigate this is, I think that social media is such a great tool, right? I mean, it allows us to reach information globally. However, what I want moms and dads, parents, guardians, and caregivers to understand is that social media should be used to support this child's journey, but not define it, because after all, they are only like 11, 12. They're not even 18 yet. So a lot of the decisions still need to be made by their moms and dads. So when we look at how should then social media support when it comes to branding and sponsorships and all of that, it's just there to showcase something to support the child's journey through whatever they need to do.
I love that. Thank you so much. I mean, as someone from a branding perspective, you look at different touch points to amplify a message. And what
Yeah.
you're saying is so true that, social media is just the tool, it's the channel in which you use to share and support the journey. So, how can parents tell the difference between using social media to support a child's sport, um, whilst, or, sports, confidently, whereas social media, is obviously a way that can also shape their identity, or how they see themselves. So how do they balance that? How can we help them tell the difference?
All right. First of all, I know that, when it comes to child online protection, a lot of parents thinks, what tools should I use to protect them online? But actually, the first thing that we need to do is listen to them and have boundaries with them. That's everything that I tell the parents to do. It's like, first listen to your child. Like I said previously, it's like go through that journey with them. And through this journey, you need to understand that when a child starts asking things like, how many likes did I get after this post, then you already know that they're using social media to validate them, because they're only looking at the numbers and the engagements. And that's when you know, okay, this is not okay, because now they're having performance anxiety, for example, asking how many likes do they have. Therefore, they're not understanding it as, okay, this is to showcase your work, to showcase your talent, but now we are doing it for the likes. So this is
Mm,
where the identity shaping now becomes this thing of, I need validation all the time. So that's now where we can start to spot the red flags on
yeah.
how this is now not supportive anymore, but it's shaping a different kind of identity where now it's leading into anxiety also.
So you mentioned something that was really important there, that children start looking for validation. And it begs a question: should parents actually even alert their children that they have their own social media pages? Because if they're just managing it on the side and they actually don't even know that it's there, kids are not going to start asking for it. But if you now start letting them know and, share details, this is what's happened and so forth, then that will now start influencing, as you said, the child's identity. They're looking for validation and so forth. Whereas if they're just being children, I mean, I remember when I was a child, I was just there for the sports and I loved it. And my main thing was focus on winning. That's all we're here to do. But now we have the whole world is watching, but you're not aware that the whole world is watching unless you're looking for it, or it's put in front of you, or you actively look for, put yourself out there. So maybe the question is, should parents tell their kids about their profiles? If they're, say, let's start with my star athlete who's about 11 years old, should they know about their own social media pages?
I think the next thing that we need to spot is what are the ages. Like you said, your star athlete is 11 years old.
Yeah.
So, for example, for someone who is 11, then no, they need to receive minimal information because mom and dad needs to be in control of this social media page that they have opened. So it's not even about you have access to it. No, the child should have no access at all to their social media because they are between, or I would say someone who's between 9 to 11 should not
Yeah.
have access to their social media at all. But then once the child hits 12, 13, that's when they are sort of in high school, right?
Yeah.
Everybody then will have a social media account. This is now where we then transition into, okay, I want to educate you as to why you're on social media, why we have boundaries, why you need to have limited visibility. It's that thing
Mhm.
of we now have to have a different conversation with them, such as consent, talking to strangers online. Stranger danger was always offline before,
Yes.
but now stranger danger has
It's
no
worldwide.
boundaries. It's worldwide, right?
Yeah.
Online. So, and then once they reach, for example, the age of 16, I
Yeah.
remember I had the same case with you, where we had a musical talent. My nephew was a musical talent, or still is a musical talent. And
Yeah.
that time, he was between the ages of 16 and 17. So,
Yeah.
what we needed to do is revamp his existing social media page. So then
Yeah.
that's where we say, okay, look, my boy, this is our part as your aunt manages, and this
Yeah.
is your part. This is what you may not post in the meantime because we are now telling a story about you as a musical person, right? So that's a whole nother different conversation. So there are different stages when it comes to different ages. So, for example, like I said, with your nephew, I guess minimal info and it has to be controlled by the parents. And then in my case, where our nephew was around the age of 16, 17, we just
Yeah.
needed to have a digital literacy conversation and consequences if you post something that was too silly or where it could ruin an opportunity, something like that. So
Oh,
yeah,
so did
that's
you speak about digital literacy, and I believe that's also a very important component for parents, right? Because when we see social media, we see it as a way to, an outlet, if you will, in terms of what we're feeling, what we're going through.
Mhm.
And as someone who's been in the branding space, from a
Yeah.
brand, you're very particular about what you're going to put out there, because this is now, you are shaping people's perception of you. And I feel like as an individual, it's the same thing. You're shaping perceptions of you. And once it's out there, it's out there. It's very difficult to hold it back. I mean, back way before digital footprint was a thing, or digital social media was a thing, brands just had to worry about what they put out there in terms of
Yeah.
ads and
Yeah.
billboards, right?
Mhm.
But now with social media, I mean, if I was to look for ads from way ago, I have to go onto YouTube to find them. Hopefully someone's uploaded them, right? Sometimes you will find, sometimes you won't find. But digital media, people will find it. You think it's buried, people will find it. I've seen instances of even celebrities making that mistake where they've said something on a certain platform and people will find it. So it's very interesting that you want to protect them, but they also need to be made aware, and parents also need to be aware of that literacy as well in providing that guidance. So where do you see
Absolutely.
parents unintentionally crossing from showing personality into oversharing, and what risk does that create for children online? Because now we're talking about the digital literacy part, like what can they showing personality is basically showing something more than what they're good for, so more than the music, more than the sport, more than the academic. Who is this child? But then understanding that you have quite a few people who are not of a good nature that will probably use that in not a great way. How can they navigate this space?
Mhm. All right. First of all, I just want to start us off with the first thing is digital footprint. Yeah. Once, like you said, once something is on the internet, it cannot be really taken down. Even though, let's say, oh, I took down the post, so my
Mm,
children are safe. No, somebody could have already screenshotted that and
mm,
forwarded multiple times to different, for example, WhatsApp groups,
yes.
Telegrams, all of that. Okay. So I think the most of the times the mistake that parents make is oversharing unintentionally. This
Mm,
is from the child's full name to
mm,
where they are at the moment. Sometimes even logos of school uniforms,
ooh,
daily routines,
mm,
swim classes, and all of that with
yeah,
the exact time stamps. That is
yeah,
scary and that is dangerous. And then, of course, like when children have injuries and, like an emotional moment, crying because of this and that, those are then where oversharing becomes very, very dangerous. And maybe the next question that parents should ask before they post is, will my child be okay with seeing this 10 years from now? So, for example, pictures of, bath time, for example.
yeah,
Will my child
exactly.
be seeing this in 10 years' time? So, yes, maybe making memories should
Mm,
be kept more private than things that are for a marketing perspective. But maybe
yeah,
you can help me touch more on that. So, from
yeah,
my perspective, the child online protection researcher is moms and dads, please, when it comes to making memories, try to keep it private because some things should be valuable and not be seen to public all the time. Although, however, there is a double edged sword where people say we want to see authenticity online.
yeah.
But draw the line of this is too much vulnerable moment and
Mm.
oversharing. Yeah, but for me, the most important thing is never to share a child's location and where they go to school.
Yeah. Well, if I think about also from a branding perspective, even for individuals, it especially safety is such a big thing. You do not want to share where you are at all times live. You can post days later. In fact, I'm that marketing person. I can post many days later, even months later, picture from way back, and you wouldn't know. But it feels like it's real time. So from that aspect, you could always schedule posts so that it's not real time. And I agree with you in terms of logos. How do you don't share school stuff, which is very interesting because we're recording this at a time where a lot of schools have been opening, and then social media is flooded with back to school uniforms, and I'm cringing because I'm like, no, we don't need to do that. But I understand people are proud, right? You want to show, like, your child is progressing. um I believe this the I it's a case where parent needs to say, you know what am I okay with, as you said, not only the child seeing 10 years from now, but if this was me, would I have been okay with seeing that? Um, Especially as you said, bath time. I mean, geez, the pictures we've had in bath time from way ago. I'm so glad we grew up in an era where there was no social media, because I would
No,
not want that to be out anywhere.
not at
But
all.
if we're talking about, sports, music, academics, you do want to show how, someone's progressing. I mean, we've seen also near the end of the year, people doing well at school and sharing those aspects. But I think we also need to be cognizant of, do we need to say what school they're at? Or we can just say they did well in grade such and such, and that's probably it. But from a certain age, I would say, but I'm that aunt, very, very, protective, like they shouldn't be online until they're
Mm,
16. but I
yes.
also but I also understand that you are going to be around other people that will be online, and it's if they're not in
Mhm.
online in your house, they're going to be online in someone else's house. So they still need to have that literacy on how to carry themselves no matter what. So key thing is, whatever you put out there, are you sure that you can back it up with your full chest, that you said what you said and you're okay with that? And I think that's the biggest thing, because we also know we grow, we change, but that's why you need to be mindful of what you put out there. I mean, certain platforms, I didn't even go with my name. I went with my business name because I knew if I say anything, it's going to impact the business. So maybe from a parent's point of view, is in this aspect on social media, treat your child like they're a business. Would they
Yes.
want to be seen in that light? Because you're ultimately building trust. You're ultimate building a community. And whatever you do, it takes a while to build trust, but less than a second to break it. So that will always inform the content you post and when you post and how you post. So I would say treat your child like a business. They are a brand, they are a business essentially, and you want to protect that at all costs, like a brand would.
Yeah, and I also want to add, like, especially when we're posting pictures, to be very mindful about the people that is
Around.
on the picture. Yeah. So, for example, if you take a picture and there's another little kid behind you, get consent from the parent,
Yeah.
or try not to tag any minors in your pictures. Don't name someone without their permission. It's going back to, you need to post intentionally also, and be aware. Yeah, because I know we love to post, oh my gosh, this is so cute, my kid is riding a little horse on a carousel or whatever, but there's also other children. Try to blur out their faces. It's a
Yeah.
lot of effort to do all these small edits, but be mindful about other children, because, for example, your child is the one that is a star, but the child next door just wants a private life.
And that is so important, because I like that you said be aware and mindful, because as much as you're focusing on your kid is still part of a community at the end of the day, whether it's music, academic, or even sports. They're going to be surrounded by, their teammates or their classmates. So
Yeah.
you also need to be mindful of their surroundings and their environment. And as you
Mhm.
said, consent, because you know, you don't want to be put in a space where you're infringing or imposing on somebody else who's not probably ready to be out there yet. And as you said, minors, right? The reason why this conversation is so real for me and also eye opening is that from a marketing perspective, we always considered, you don't speak to um, in certain companies that I've worked for, certain brands, we couldn't speak to children at all. We could only speak to the parents. But also from an advertising point of view, you cannot have the face of a child younger than 7 unless
Mm.
by parental consent. But I don't know if there is a social media addendum to that aspect
Yeah.
of, marketing. Like, how do you navigate, sharing information about a child? Whereas, okay, they're not 7 anymore, but they're still underage. And if we think about sponsorships and, partnerships and ambassadorships, lots of ships. But if we look at those ships, what can the child actually say? Because we spoke about authenticity. We don't want them to seem like a salesperson at the end of the day. So, there's that aspect that they need to navigate and still feel like it's a part of them. I don't know if you've got any ideas of how parents can navigate that aspect.
True. When it comes to that, I suppose everything is curated in a way, right?
Mm,
Anything that you post online, as much as you want to be authentic, there is a small curation.
Yeah.
But I think, like you said, we don't want it to sound too salesy. We want it to be very, very authentic. But it all goes back to, what kind of story are you trying to tell here? You know, you want to do, how is it, like the credibility of this post. And of course, sometimes it's always great to go to professionals such as you, who's a professional marketing person, branding person, and then of course also navigating with somebody who knows child online protection well. And there are many, many tools that parents can actually utilize, and many people that they can consult in order to do that. Yeah, I hope I'm answering.
You have, and I love the fact that there are experts, and it's all about looking for that information, right? Half the time that when we think about it, when we have a problem, it's like, where do I even start? And this is all about providing people that guidance of where to start. So I'm glad that we're having this conversation, because it's really like, it's real life things that we're experiencing, right? And speaking from our experiences and our expertise, we want to just share that with people. Like, you don't have to feel so overwhelmed, because there are parents who are like, I don't want my children online, and I completely understand that.
Yeah.
I'm just also seeing from a marketing perspective where the world is going in terms of trends. And more, everyone's going to be online. So you're not going to be able to keep them offline for long.
Yes.
You would rather at least give them the tools and the literacy, as you said, to
Hmm.
manage and navigate that. And sooner is always better than later, because we've all experienced in our own lives some way or another where we had our parents tell us, don't do this, don't do that. And we didn't have context, we didn't have the information, and we messed around and found out the wrong way.
Right now, information is basically in the palm of your hands because
Yes.
our phones is just there.
Yeah.
All our children can look for all of this information. We are actually giving birth to sophisticated digital citizens.
Exactly. So it's actually up to us to be able to guide them and teach them how to navigate it safely, as opposed to
Yes.
saying, I'll wait for when they're older. I mean, I don't know if you've ever experienced it when you were younger. You're like, oh, I'm so curious about this. And they're like, when you're older. And when you were older, you literally messed around and found out, like, if I had gotten a little bit more information or context when I was younger, I feel like I probably
Mm,
would have made a better decision. So
yes.
it's all about, here's the information. If you're not sure, speak to either Marcella or I, or both of us at the same time, and we'll guide you, because we'd rather people be well equipped as
Hmm.
opposed to falling short later and trying to catch up or trying to navigate things. Or worse, it becomes a PR nightmare, because a lot of the PR nightmares that we're seeing, even in celebrities' lives, even in um, professional lives, we've seen it. It's because people are not sure how to conduct themselves online, and
Yes.
they're not
Correct.
treating themselves as a business. They're treating everything else around them, but they're forgetting they also are a brand. Even if you feel like you're not a brand, you are a brand already. And your child is a brand, essentially. And navigating that, you need to treat yourself like a business. And what would your business do? What do you want your business to be about? And how do you want people to trust that business?
Yes. And then from my perspective, it's more of, you just need to understand that technology moves very, very fast. However, when it comes to that awareness of safety, people are not looking into that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we can teach, we can have seminars and webinars all about this, but if you're not open to learning about online safety, then
Yeah.
one part of the story is moving so fast, and safety is not, moving as fast as that. And this is
Yeah.
where people will face a lot of dangers from scamming, phishing attacks,
Mm.
all of that. And people think online danger is hacking, but no, it starts with a simple email and a
Mm.
link that you need to click, and it will sound like a good opportunity, or all of that, but
Yeah.
then we as parents need to verify these information first before clicking. So
Yeah.
It's a lot for parents to navigate, I understand, and it's a lot of information that's hitting them in the face all at once. It's parenting plus keeping the children safe
Yeah,
plus understanding how do we then brand this child and how
yeah,
do we get all these financial opportunities, and it's a lot. And all parents need to do is just to sit down and say, you know what, this is a lot, but I want to learn and I want to go seek for proper information. And that's the first step. I think that's the first step, is to just learn about online safety together with your children and to set up these boundaries and framework for at home. So
yes.
one of the first things that I always tell fellow moms and dads is children should not take their phones to the bathroom
Mm,
or to their bedroom when they're
okay.
sleeping, because that is where they make child abuse material.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's,
When they're by
you know,
themselves and no one's around them. Yeah.
exactly. But then all of those digital hygiene should also, you as a parent should also implement that and say, okay,
Yes.
I'm putting my phone away at a certain time, or I'll
Yeah.
only keep the one phone open for emergencies, something like that. So that's how the first step to keep our children safe.
You've said an amazing framework that I feel like you need to even name it in terms of, child online safety, because it starts with number one, awareness, what it is that you're trying to do, and understand, what are the different platforms and so forth, and what is it that you're trying to portray. But at the same time, from that awareness is now navigating the story with your child. So letting them know about, not just social media, but as you said, there's other ways. It's emails. I mean, we grew up in the era of you would get an email from a prince and he wants to send you money, click a link. I'm still getting those emails. I don't know why. I'm like, wow, but it's not a prince, it's other people from all over. But again, if you're not familiar or you're not sensitized to it, it's very easy to fall and be like, oh, I want to click here. But as you said, now it's evolved. Back then they wanted you to respond to an email, now it's you need to click this. And if you're not erring on the side of caution, you would be like, oh, this sounds like a great opportunity. And not all opportunities are great, right? It's literally, is it in line with what it is that you are trying to achieve? And that's the whole point about being online is you're online, great. We know online emails, we want to receive information, we want to send information. Social media is the same thing, but maybe more for visibility, or maybe it's just a way to document your life, or, you know, there's people who they may not see you every day, so it's a way for them to see what's happening in your life. That's how we know Meta started. I'm not going to give the full other platform,
Yeah.
but that's how they started, right? It was about connections and about, okay, granted it was about students, but it evolved into connecting with people. And obviously that has evolved over time to, more businesses now coming forward, and how do you connect with people from that aspect. So for children, still being children, you want to share, but you don't have to share everything. If
Yeah.
it's not in line with what it is that you're trying to achieve, so it's the awareness. It's then, understanding the safety guidelines, and sharing that with each other, and coming back to those two every so often. Like, is this in line with what we want to achieve? Is this who we want
Mhm.
to be portrayed as or perceived as? How is this safe, not only for you but the people around you? And when you've got that in place, you are less likely to fall into scams or be scammed, or be influenced negatively, or as you said, be put yourself in a position to be harmed, which I
Yeah.
think is a challenge, right? Because social media is a lot. And this, as you
It's
said, technology is evolving. So 15 years
quite
ago,
fast.
it's very fast, and we've got AI now, so even more. There's a lot to even consider, like, these deep fakes that are coming about. There's a song that's trending. I don't need to let people know about it because, again, it's not my song, but it's a beautiful song. Sad also, and it's trending. Funny enough, but this song was popular like 12, 13 years ago, but it's trending because
Mm,
of AI, which is
yeah.
scary. And I'm just
Yeah.
like, wow, there is so much that can happen. But if you're not guiding, if you're not teaching along the way,
Yeah.
giving the good foundation, um, that even through the evolution, that they'll still be able to navigate safely. And I think that's key, not to shy away from it, but to be equipped with knowledge to navigate. And the truth is, we're all still learning because there's always new things coming up. But as long as you've got a good foundation, you'll be able to balance, sharing your pride and excitement, but also protecting their long-term digital footprint.
Absolutely. And
So,
I do want to also
mhm,
say something about, opportunities is that we need to also have this rule of thumb that says if it's too good to be true, it's probably a scam.
yeah,
If there is some sort of urgency in the email, then it's probably also a scam
yep,
because you don't need to do anything right now. Because
exactly.
that's what scammers do. They'll always get into that you need to do it right now.
Mm,
You don't have any time left. You
mm,
just need to say, let me take a step back and just
yeah,
evaluate this,
exactly.
because oh, there's been so many cases that um, moms and dads would actually come to me in
Mm,
conferences and all of that where they'll share a little bit about the story. And
mm,
it's so scary because it's always with a little bit of manipulation and a little bit of threat. Yeah.
mm,
I think that's one thing that I would like parents to really, really understand is when it's too good to be true, when there's urgency in anything, such as an email, a text message, you just need to take a step back. And
mm,
then doing that, adding that, AI can do a lot of things now,
mm,
from recording your voice and manipulating it, pictures with the deep fakes
mm,
that you mentioned. So, and there'll always be that urgency. So
yeah,
please be careful when you are reading an email, a text message. Always make sure it is verified and
yeah,
do the work. Just do that a little bit of just sit down and googling like, okay, is this company legit?
yes,
This email address look legit? It could be a small little dot that will give it away. But
yeah,
we are not careful enough. We just say, oh, okay, it looks like it's coming from a reputable company. But
mm,
actually, copy paste that email address on a specific engine or a search engine, it will tell you that actually this company doesn't exist in real life.
Ooh, I feel like you need
Mhm.
to share what those tools are, and I'll put it on for people to see in the link. I mean, in the
Absolutely.
description below, because
Okay.
that is gold that people just don't know how to verify or check things. And I love that aspect. That's another part of your framework. So we said awareness. We talked about digital literacy, but what you literally said there, which if we think about where technology is taking us, it's making us go fast. But you've literally essentially said, slow down. Actually, there's
Yes.
no rush. As we like to say in
No.
Africa, there's no rush in Africa. But yeah, there's a rush, but it doesn't have to rush. It doesn't. Literally, it doesn't. As you said, like take a day, take a couple of days if need be. But the moment you feel like you have to be rushed, then that should be a red flag or warning sign. Even if it turns out to be good, at least you're going in there with the confidence that okay, this is not a scam. So make sure that you're aware. There's awareness of what it is that you're trying to do. Understand, is this in line with the literacy and safety? Do I know enough? If I don't, let me find out. And then slow down. Like, okay, am I feeling rushed here? Am I feeling safe? Because again, that rush is to make you feel unsafe and like you're doing something wrong and it's creating anxiety. But if you slow it all the way down, take a nap, as I like to say, because sometimes I get flustered. I'm like, I should just need to eat and sleep. Take a nap.
Yes.
And then when you wake and then come back to it with a fresh mind when you're not in a rush and be like, okay, is this really something that's legit or, and not? And because where they actually catch us out is in actually rushing us. And then you just go from emails to DMs to text. It happens literally in a rush. Thank you so much for that. Okay. So I love the fact that you also mentioned that, as long as there's key things that parents agree to, so, have your boundaries in place and the framework that you're saying, okay, this is what we're going to allow. This is not what we're not. So any other safety rules that you could probably give to parents that they should think about, such that they should never compromise on when managing the social media pages? So I know we talked about location identifiers or posting live and so for delayed posting, but and limiting personal information. But is there anything else that they should say is a rule that they're not going to compromise on?
Maybe regular digital check-ins. So,
Oh.
for example, once um, the children move into that age of 13, 14, 15, 16, you should actually say, please give me your phone. I want to see what you are doing online.
I like that because if we think about it, I think parents need to know this, because the more you know, the more you can, navigate. There's such things as fake pages,
Yes, yes.
and kids know
And
how to do it. They think we don't
yes,
know, but it's there. It's
and
there.
to be honest, I've been in, I've had study groups with lots of children where they now voice their opinion. And
Mm.
they said, I wish mom and dad would actually care a little bit more about what I'm doing online. I
Mm.
wish moms and dads would actually play Roblox with me. I wish
Mm.
moms and dads would be more interested in what I like to do online. So it's also a matter of regular digital check ins, but also sitting down with them and saying, okay, what do you like to do? Oh, you like to play Roblox? Let me play with you just to see what the games are like. Because I remembered actually, my nieces, they were learning to read at that time.
Mm.
So they didn't know how to read, then it's nice and safe. They're just playing Roblox. But
Yeah.
once they start learning how to read, they can start reading the chats on Roblox, right? And they're saying,
Mm.
why would somebody say something so rude like that? At that's when I realized, wow, I actually need to sit down, play these games, and say, this one you're allowed to play, these ones you're not allowed to play because it's not age appropriate. Then
Yeah.
they'll say, why? And I'll say, maybe that one will make you have nightmares because there is
Mm.
some ghosts in that, in that game, or, there
Yeah.
is something that is not okay for you to see. So the more open you are in having these boundary conversations, the more they accept it. I was
Yeah.
actually surprised when the children said, I wished they would warn me in advance. I wish they would be more involved. So that one was a surprise for me that they actually don't mind having these regular digital check ins. It's usually when they are so deep in the bad that they don't want to give their phones.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then you
Yeah.
will also see telltale signs such as mood shifts, withdrawals, obsession with certain things. Yeah. So, first things first, have that digital check-ins, but when you start to see all of these mood swings and all of that, that's a definite red flag that they're doing harmful things online.
Mm. And you've actually said something that I actually also witnessed with some nieces and nephews of mine as well. I think it was early times of, the iPad had just come out and the kids all want to be on the iPad and playing games. And you've got these games that are interactive. And there was one game, I even forget, where someone, I don't know if they hacked through this game, started talking to my niece and nephew, but my sister heard what they were saying. It's like, wait a minute, who are you talking to? And started engaging. It's like, whoa, this is not safe anymore. So
Mhm.
it's also good, as you mentioned, like the digital check and be there with them so that they can also identify, because as children they don't know, they're still learning the wrong from the right, what's a good, what's bad. So if you're there with them to guide them through that and teach them, then it's more likely that they will recognize something like, no, this is not good for me to you know to engage with, and shut it down themselves. But as you said, like, when if they have that confidence from you, um they're more likely to make those decisions later on, where they know now, if I try this, I'm going to find out some things, so I'd rather not. So I love that. Thank you. And we're going to go on to our last question. I am loving
Okay.
this conversation so much. I feel like I wish we had more time, but I don't want to take too much of your time today. But I think we've touched on so many things, and I'm also just seeing parallels from my own life, but also in terms of how things have evolved over time. It's wow. I mean, 5 years ago, would we've all been able to speak about AI and how it's changed the landscape as well? Probably not. And we don't know what's going to be in the future. But as we've said, if you're aware of who you are, you have the literacy, you are understanding the different things and safety, and you're checking in and you're also there. Um, those are the fundamentals. That's the foundation that, anything else that comes out from after that, you and your child be able to navigate accordingly. So what early social media decisions tend to resurface later, positively or negatively for, say, young athletes or musicians and so forth? So, um, we when we think about social media platforms that we want to put our children on, geez, there's so many. I feel like just when we think there's a social media platform, another one starts
Just comes up.
showing up.
Yes.
It just comes up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what is this? Do we really need all of this? I mean, as a marketing person, I'm like, just choose a few. But then what happens? Well, everywhere. And that's a lot because now they all do different things. I mean, and it's good to talk about them. I'm going to name them because they're so diverse also in what they represent. There's Facebook, which is more for our millennial era, us millennials, woohoo, in the house. And a little bit of the Gen Xers and boomers. And then you've got the likes of TikTok that came onto the scene. It's less than 10 years old, TikTok, guys.
Yes,
Yes, it's less
but
than
it's
10 years old.
growing.
And it's changing everything. So the song I told you about that was like trending and so forth, it came apparently from TikTok and it's now on Instagram, which is another platform. The
Yes.
Snapchat, never got into it and don't personally understand it. So there's that. We've got Twitter. Wait, X, which is formerly known as Twitter.
X. Yeah.
I still can't say X for some reason. It's just I still call it Twitter.
My ex.
Yeah, X is just so X. Jeez, what else is there? We've got YouTube. Let's not forget YouTube is a platform as well. And I
Yes.
I personally say that YouTube is more on your, teaching. You can learn so much. And this is where they get exposed to a lot of things as well. I don't know what else I'm forgetting. Okay, LinkedIn is more for professionals and there's different things that you can do on there. But we've got our I don't want to say Gen Z is more on the TikTok and say Snapchats.
Mhm.
Um,
Yes.
and probably fake profiles on Instagram, and then what they call the finsters. I learned that from watching a show, just by the way. Like, this is why when you were talking about watching with them, like I pay attention to what kind of shows they actually watch, and if you can't watch it with them, watch it without them, so you can also actually be like, is this something that they actually should be watching?
Mhm.
That's how I learned about Finsta through a show because they weren't going to tell me. I mean,
Yeah.
auntie, but I know because it's on the show. And then you've got our Gen Alphas who have come into play, and I don't know
Mhm.
who's after Gen Alpha. Is going to be Gen Beta. I feel like we've gone all the way
I
to
don't
Gen.
know.
I
I
don't know.
can't keep up, to be honest.
Right?
I'm just here with the online safety and designing tools for that.
Yeah. So these are all the different age groups, right? Like we have such a vast generational evolution, and we've all been exposed to different things. I feel like millennials, we're getting the brunt of it, like from the 90s to now, we've seen it all. Okay. We've seen it all. And it's navigating that because it's also unlearning things and relearning and still guiding and teaching and so forth. It's a lot. However, you know from these different platforms, again, once it's out there, it's out there. You can't take it back. So it's being conscious of what it is that you want to put out there. So decisions that can affect decisions that will affect you later on in life is based on, as you said, what are you being aware? What am I using this for? What is the storyline? What are we doing here? Because yes, it may seem like it's for play and it's nice, but as you said, 10 years, 15 years from now, are you going to be proud of that? For us millennials, we've seen on Facebook, it'll be like Facebook memories, and you're like, oh my gosh, what did I
I'm
post?
still trying to delete some of my old
Really?
statuses on Facebook.
Why? I love it because I'm just like, hell, you were going through it, eh? But
Yeah, I was emo.
we were not. The reason why I say like it's okay to leave it because it's also showing where we were at that point. It's a different. It's time capsule. If for anything, it's like a time capsule. Like you went through something, but it's different then than it is now. I mean, if we look at the movies that we used to watch to now, completely different. And it's the same thing with how our children are going to be interacting with social media. It evolves over time, and it's a representation of who you were at that point and what
Yes,
you were how you were able to express yourself, because we didn't have other outlets to express ourselves, and then here we are. We have a global outlet from everywhere now, sharing our innermost thoughts on, Maria's
exactly.
feeling like, oh my gosh, I got out of bed, and you're just like,
It's
why would you
raining.
say that?
It's
Exactly.
just raining.
Why would you do that? But
Yeah.
as much as we're like cringe, that is a good premise. I feel like parents could probably use to show their children, like, this is what I used to say. Are you going to be proud with what you put out there? For me, it's cringe now, you know? And I think that's probably a good place to start with the literacy. Like, see, it's here. I get reminded because, Facebook wants to remind me, even though
Hmm.
nobody asked for it. It does that. Um, but it's also a good way to be like, this is when you put it out there, it's out there. You could delete it, but it's still somewhere out there somehow. As you said, someone would have screenshot it. Because there are people out there that just random and would do stuff like that. You can't control everybody, and that's fine. But you still want to be proud of whatever you put out there. Yes, it's a representation of you at that time, but are you going to be proud of it? As I said, can you put your full chest behind it? Like, you know what? I'm proud of what I said. I'm proud of, that was me at that time. That was my opinion.
Mm.
And I stick by it.
Yeah.
My man, my man, my man, as people say. I'm going to stick right beside it.
Yes.
So that's
But
essentially what.
like with all that we have been saying, it sounds so scary. But I do want to tell the parents out there that they shouldn't fear so much. All they need to do is have better conversations with their children. And we have okay, not so many, but we have some researchers who specializes in child online protection. Like for example, with me, my project is I created a little chatbot called GoGoCopa, which is just specifically for child online protection. So if a parent said, what am I going to say to this person? Or what am I going to say to my child when it comes to having boundaries? There's tools where you can say, okay, how do I speak to my child about screen time? You know? And it's just that I want to tell the parents, you do have support. We're here as experts, we're here
Mhm.
to support you. If you want educational information, we do have that for you.
Yeah,
Um, all you need to do is just look for it. Don't
yeah,
fear it. Just be mindful about it. There's support for you out there. Please. So don't be afraid. Let's navigate this together. Yes, technology is becoming more sophisticated, but you have the opportunity to run, side by side with it, to teach yourself. So always remain teachable, always be open to learning about technology. It's not as scary as you think it is. Yes, we need to lay it out like these are the dangers, this is how to mitigate it. And it sounds like a lot, but parents, guardians, and caregivers, please know that we are here to support you. So it's scary, but we're here to support you. Don't you worry.
exactly. And I love that. Thank you so much. That is so true. Like parents, caregivers, guardians, there is a lot of information out there, and even as a marketing person, I'm just like, wow, this is a lot. However, when you've got experts like Marcella and I at your disposal, err on the side of ask a question, and we would happily answer. So as this is going to
Absolutely.
be loaded up, send your questions, put them in the comments, and we will answer them. And I'll also put Marcela's information there so that you can get in touch with her if there's certain questions that you would like answered. And yeah, don't be shy. I believe actually we give our kids such a disservice when we shy away from stuff that we are not aware of, or we feel overwhelmed by, as opposed to reaching out to people who can help guide us through it and navigate through it. You don't want to give someone else the chance to teach your child something that you can provide a foundation for first. Because many things in life, if we outsource every single thing, we there's nuances and certain things that your kids may not know, and you as a parent, as a caregiver, as a guardian, have values, you have morals that you've instilled in your children, and you know there are certain things that your kids know, like, if I try this with mom and dad, I'm gonna see my life. So if so ultimately, if you're guiding them also through this space, because a lot of us, when social media came out, there was no guidance. It was just, that's why we're seeing memories like, oh my gosh, what was I saying? Because we didn't have anyone to tell us any better. we really we really didn't, but now we do. We are here to guide you from a branding perspective, what big brands are doing that you can also do, and expert in child online protection and safety can also tell you, like, this is what we've seen, this is what's happening. You can get ahead of the curve by having those conversations with your children, having those boundaries, having that framework of understanding that this is what we'd have this for, this is what we're doing online, these this is what we're learning together in terms of, digital hygiene. As you said, certain times you're not on the phone, but also certain apps you're not going to be on, or anything else. And certain age groups, you will know about your presence, other age groups you won't know about it. And it's okay, because you need to have that time to properly induct your child. Like, if we think about when we all go into to work, we go through
Yeah.
inductions. It's the same
Yes.
with the children. Induct them into the world, because one way or another they're going to be on there. And probably my question to parents is, do you want your child to be online without your guidance, or let someone else tell them what they should be doing online?
When I conduct workshops, the first thing I say is, would you give your 10-year-old child keys to your Ferrari that drives 220 kilometers per hour to a small child who has no license, who knows nothing about road safety? This is what we do when we give our children phones. We're
Hmm.
handing them keys to our Ferrari
Yeah,
without them putting a seatbelt on, without them having a driver's license, because we are not having these conversations about safety with
yeah.
them. I always ask the parents to close their eyes and imagine themselves handing these keys to their children and watching them drive away
Mm,
in your
mm, mm,
Ferrari
mm,
without a
mm.
driver's license.
Firstly, I know
And it
my star athlete would not think twice about taking those keys. He will take them and drive. Okay.
how scary it can be. So, therefore, it is important to sit down and have these conversations, have
Mm,
these boundaries, have these rules. It's rules and regulations for your home, for the devices.
yeah, absolutely. Well, Marcella, thank you so much for your time. I truly appreciate it. You've opened my eyes to, geez, the aspects and the different perspectives, but I really feel like we've given parents something to work with, and not to feel afraid of it. Yes, it can feel overwhelming. Yes, it can feel like, oh my gosh, do I even really want them on there? The reality is, at some point they're going to get on there. You'd rather at least have let them have that foundation first, and you guiding them with your morals and values, such that they navigate it accordingly, and treat your child like you're literally a brand online. I think from that aspect, no matter what, treat yourself like a brand online. Even yourself as a parent, you are a brand online. You are a business. What does that look like? What do you want people to interact with? And that will inform a lot of decisions and make it easier. And let your kids also start thinking like that when you also start teaching them and inducting them, and guiding them through that space. But I want to thank you so much for your time. I enjoyed it. I feel like we should have another session, but
I'd
I
love
want to
that.
thank. I know, right? Thank you so much. And parents, please share your questions in the comments or thoughts, and we will get back to you. And Marcella's details are also going to be in the description. So thank you very much. Have a good one. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, Subscribe and hit the bell notification so you know when I drop a new video, and share.